All right, what's going on, guys? Graham, Gius, and Matthews here with FanSided Daily DDT. And ahead of Survivor Series this coming Sunday, we're talking with one of the members of Team SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, one of the new faces of Friday nights. Drew, what's going on, my man?
What's not going on? Been a wild couple of weeks. Been in the UK for a tour. Just jumped over from Budapest to Nashville, where I live, and I'm getting a flight tonight to head to Brooklyn for Survivor Series week, and I am buzzing.
Dude, I can tell. I saw your tweet with all the various locations of where you've been. It's wild. And I don't know if you just mentioned this, but the MTA, even EMA Awards as well a couple days ago, right?
So, yeah, that's what I was in Budapest for. That was a lot of fun. It's the cool thing about being a WWE superstar. We get some unique opportunities to represent the company when it's apparent I'm doing the air quotations work. But it's such a cool thing to be part of, and shows the global reach of WWE that they want WWE to be part of such a big event.
Yeah, it's cool because you got to host the thing, right?
I got to present the Best Rock Award, which is my favorite category. So that was pretty cool to go up there, do a little speech in my kilt in front of the world.
I saw the picture, yeah.
Present the award to, I have to get this right, I keep pronouncing their name wrong. Everyone says Mainskin, but I believe it's Monoskin. I got it right when I was presenting the award on stage, because during every interview during the day I kept mispronouncing their name, but I got it right when it counted.
Exactly. As long as you get it right when it matters most, that's all that matters. But that's pretty cool, man. How did that compare to like everything else you've done as part of like the media? I mean, being on top for the last almost 2 years now, how did that compare to every other experience you've had?
Great, because most other stuff I've done was virtual because I'm a WWE champion. So the outside the ring stuff I was looking forward to doing, I was fairly limited. There was some cool stuff I got to do virtually, but now the world's opening back up. As busy as my schedule's been recently, I wouldn't change a thing. Like I always said, give me the John Cena schedule. If anyone knows anything about John, He was nonstop, so busy all the time. And I told him I wanted the same, and I meant it. And I feel so fortunate to be able to get a taste of that now, but especially after the world shutting down and getting out there and representing the company and representing myself, there's been such a buzz, and to, get told afterwards that, the company and WWE are happy, but also the company we're working with are happy too. It's what it's all about, and feels pretty good.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome to see for me as a fan, too, because it's cool to see you in the position that you're in still. Because, like, when you're the WWE champion, it's expected, but you haven't held the title in a while, and you're still killing it with all the media and the appearances and everything else, because sometimes people win the big one and then they fall off, and, it is what it is. But it seems like you're one of the rare few to have maintained this main event status and still feel like one of the biggest stars in the show, whether you're the champion or not, which is a great spot to be in.
I appreciate that. The way I see it is just... never get content, treat every day like day one. It's one thing to get to the top of the mountain, but it's a whole other ballgame to stay. And I learned that with all the ups and downs of my life and career, and I know it could all go away tomorrow. So anything I get, any interview, I was talking right now, I want to give it my 100%, and it doesn't come from a manufactured place. I feel so fortunate. I'm just literally talking about myself in WWE. How can anyone consider that work? So any day I get to do it, I'm very, very lucky.
No, that's cool, man. I love that attitude. And we're going to the Survivor Series on Sunday, obviously an event you're very familiar with, which we'll get to in a second. But looking at the lineup for Team SmackDown, they haven't outright said this, but do you consider yourself the captain for this team?
Well, if you would ask Xavier Woods, he would say otherwise.
True.
But, I was announced, first. And, I've got a history of being captains. If you look throughout my career, especially outside of WWE, there's been a few different companies that I've had to lead the company to glory over other companies. So I've got experience in that area, but I'm not saying it. We'll just see how things fall on the night. But old Woodsy, I think, came to a compromise where he gets to be king, wear his little crown in the background, making the tactics, and I'll lead the charge as captain and first night.
As long as you guys can coexist, right? I guess that's the main thing.
Yes, that's what it's all about in WWE. We have to coexist.
Exactly.
Are we coexisting? Can we coexist? We say coexist 55 times.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure we'll hear that quite a bit on Sunday, so I look forward to that. But we're speaking on Tuesday. We still got Friday in SmackDown. I'll actually be there in Hartford on Friday. I'm looking forward to it. But we got one more member to be announced because Sammy was taken out the team by Jeff Hardy last week. So if you look at the current landscape of SmackDown, I know it's hard to keep track on who's on what show. We just had the draft and whatnot. But to your knowledge of who's on SmackDown currently, who would you like to see take that final spot for the blue brand?
We've got so many talented people on SmackDown. Just the guys that I've wrestled recently in Open Challenge, like Ali and Ricochet. Cesaro's there, somebody that I've never wrestled in a one-on-one match. I'm looking forward to getting in the ring with. But if I had to pick somebody, and he's been off the show for a while and dealing with his many nose surgeries, somebody that I've got a long history with. Currently, we're at odds, but we're always fighting each other. But I know how dangerous he is. I would probably pick Sheamus as the last person on the team, just because I know how physical and dangerous he is, and putting us together, we would rip apart the opposition, and as long as we win, after the match, chances are we'd end up fighting each other, but all that matters is getting the win on the night for the team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a win-win in the sense that you guys have chemistry, you guys work well together. Again, you're at odds currently, but as long as you guys, again, it goes back to that keyword, coexist, that's all that matters. So you got to bring the star power to Team SmackDown. But for you...
Yeah, we did it once before also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, so we'll go right into that. We'll talk about that for a second. Your first Survivor Series 2009, yourself, Sheamus, Miz, all men who went on to become world champions. You know, Sheamus a month later, you a decade later, Miz a couple of years later. Very cool. And also not only that, but a few years ago, I think Team Raw, you were a sole survivor as well. Following year, you became world champion. So talk a little bit about your relationship with the Survivor Series, not only the pay-per-view itself, because last year you had the match with Roman and it was awesome, but like the match itself, Survivor Series elimination matches and your successes in those.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about those other matches, but yeah, it sounds like I've had a pretty good success rate at Survivor Series. So let's hope that I can keep that going into Sunday. Like, I know everybody's talking about, like, what's at stake, and you really care about the brand you're on, considering you were on the other brand literally a few weeks before, namely Team Raw. But for me, it's more about, like, individual bragging rights and building momentum. Like, I know if I happen to be one of the sole survivors of Team SmackDown, that just goes into my building momentum, building equity, building a legitimate reason why I should fight Roman Reigns, someone who's on top of the world right now. And as much as I've heard people say that Drew and Roman, that's obviously the match that's going to happen and happen quick, I'm the first one to say, let's pump those brakes. You know, no matter how he's won his matches, he's been dominating for a very long time now, been in such an incredible run. And I've had a couple of big matches now go my way. So I want to start from the beginning. I'm a patient man. I'm going to put my time in. We're 52 weeks a year, and I want to build as much momentum as I possibly can. And that includes being a survivor for SmackDown and Survivor Series. And that's what it's all about. Even though it's team glory, it's also at the same time individual glory, as you're building your stock on your brand.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and I'm glad you put it that way too. And it's cool because Survivor Series, we always talk about the Rumble being the kickoff to Road to WrestleMania, the official kickoff, but Survivor Series isn't really too much far behind, so this is where the momentum kind of starts to begin to build and whatnot. You mentioned Roman, obviously that's a match that people want to see. It's going to happen again at some point. It's more a matter of when than if, whether it's over a championship or not, ideally, hopefully so. Is that the match you want for WrestleMania, or is it a Sheamus because you guys didn't have the chance to do it earlier this year? Is there any one opponent in mind that you got your sights set on for Mania next year? Or I guess whoever the champion is, right?
Yeah, the answer is whoever the champion is. If it is Roman, that's the match I want. If Sheamus manages to get himself in and win the championship after been a few years not being champion, then I want him. If I'm the champion going into WrestleMania, then happy days. I don't care.
Yeah, right.
But realistically, it's all about being in that title match. And, as they say, that match with Roman is going to happen. If it does take until Mania to get him, I want to keep building that momentum to make that match as big as possible and not just do it because everyone says, all right, that's the match we kind of won right now. No, look where he's at right now. Let's get McIntyre as big as possible, make that match as big as possible.
Yeah, no, exactly. And it's only going to be that much more the longer we wait to see it, which is cool. But going back to Survivor Series 09, not only was it your Survivor Series debut, you represented SmackDown that night as well, I believe. And you were the sole survivor. I mean, it wasn't Raw versus SmackDown at that point, but I think you were the sole survivor for the SmackDown side of things back at that point. So it's kind of going full circle going into Sunday.
Yeah, career is very much gone full circle. Being drafted to SmackDown. Yep. Initially, when I got drafted, I remember turning to one of the writers, going, "I feel like a traitor right now, to be honest." Back to WWE. Obviously, I was with NXT, and then when I returned to Raw, I started with Dolph. Started kind of trying to find myself. Got in a good little run, but still. There's something missing. The final piece of the puzzle wasn't there, and it happened on Raw, and I got on my run, became champion, became the face of Raw. two-time WWE champion. Really, when you thought Drew McIntyre, you thought Raw were synonymous with each other, and that's what felt like home. Mm-hmm. And then I got drafted. I was like, oh, okay. And once I thought about it and I really started wrapping my head around things, I thought about where I started. It was all SmackDown. I remember chanting Bleed Blue when I was a kid. And I was part of SmackDown in my early 20s and the Chosen One thing. And obviously things didn't work out. So that's a part of my history I'd like to make right. And if you ever watched the show Quantum Leap back in the day with Dr. Sam Beckett, putting things right where once went wrong, that's kind of what it's like for me right now, is putting that piece of history right. It didn't go very well in my early 20s.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and you're kind of righting those wrongs, like you said, on the Blue brand. Was it something that you were pushing for to be back on SmackDown? I mean, obviously on Raw you would have had success either way, but going into the draft, was that something you were hoping to end up on SmackDown to kind of close out that chapter, that unfinished business from a decade ago?
Honestly, I never really thought about it too much. I just, for some reason in my mind, there's been a couple of drafts since I've been back, I assumed I would still be on Raw. So I never thought too much about it until I was drafted to SmackDown. And then I was like, ooh, we really got to sit and think about this now. Okay, I've done pretty much as I can do on Raw, even though I knew there was more I could do. Sometimes good to get a fresh coat of paint, or paint a coat, however you want to say it. And like I mentioned already, that it is really coming full circle for Drew McIntyre. And that is a part of my history that even though, I was able to win the title and do everything I did on Raw, it was for myself, but it was for, a lot of other people. The company was going through and the world was going through some difficult times. And I was kind of thinking about everyone else rather than my individual success. This time I'm kind of thinking a little bit more about Drew McIntyre and that part of history that is kind of, sore, that is in my closet that I think about every so often that caused me a lot of personal strife and anguish that I'm going to make right this time.
Yeah, and it's cool too with SmackDown. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on SmackDown to accomplish, not only the opponents itself, but the Intercontinental Championship currently on SmackDown, the first title you held on the main roster in WWE. So to hold that again would be cool. The Universal Championship you never held, but if you were to go on to beat Roman for that belt, I think you would become the first person, or at least not the first, but the quickest person to have held the NXT, WWE, and Universal titles within like a 4 or 5 year stretch, which would be awesome.
I did not know that. That would be awesome.
So hopefully, not to put the carriage before the horse, but we'll see come on in the next couple of months, if not WrestleMania. But speaking of Survivor Series, I know Xavier has talked about this before. It's a popular topic, but not many stakes aside from the bragging rights. But if you are in charge of the Raw and SmackDown stuff, and you're the booker, so to speak, what are the stakes for Survivor Series? What would you like to see implemented in years to come with Survivor Series to make these matches even more meaningful than they already are?
I thought Woods had an interesting pitch about the 5-on-5 matches. If the losing team would have a 5-on-5 match to see who were numbers 1 to 5 in the Rumble, then the winning Survivor Series team would have a five-way dance to figure out who was going to be the last 5 in the Rumble. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. Like I say, I'm more about thinking, let's build momentum for individual superstars, but something like that makes the stakes so much higher. So, Woods might be onto something. Doesn't make him team captain, of course. But he is onto something with that idea, and that did catch my attention. I thought that was pretty good.
I concur. That would be a great idea. So hopefully at some point we get to see that. But you talked earlier about the open challenges kind of taking a different path to the Universal Championship as opposed to just showing up on SmackDown and saying, I want a title shot, which is what we see a lot. So you're taking a bit of a different path, which is cool. How have you noticed, now, and we spoke for the first time 6 months ago around the time that your book came out, and a lot of people, that was around like the time that you were still feuding with Bobby over the WWE title. The fan reception was a little different because people get sick of seeing the same person in the title picture for more than 2 months. I mean, I guess that is what it is. But how have you noticed that reaction and reception a little bit different? Because you haven't been to the main event title mix. Obviously, with the Big E stuff recently, you were, but consistently haven't been for 6 months. And it seems like that quote-unquote backlash, if you want to even call it that, has died down quite a bit since the spring.
Yeah, I'm always pleasantly surprised when the sword hits at the beginning of my music and I hear like all those cheers, because I spent so many years as a bad guy. And most of the time I'd get boos or kind of like a mix or even lukewarm or barely anything, which is the worst one of all. So I've had every kind of reaction you can possibly imagine, and it's like never lost on me. Like these days I've noticed, since we got the fans back, it was maybe a bit mixed in the first night and then it was a bit up and down. at the beginning to see where it's got to the point where it's basically all cheers when I come out all across the world. So we're getting to do these international tours, and you'd expect it maybe in the UK. I am from there, and probably getting the louder cheers on the show. But to go to somewhere like Saudi Arabia and compete there, and to hear the chants from the crowd and go, oh my goodness, like WWE truly is. We said we're global, but it's amazing just how many different countries we're featured in, how well they know the product, and how well they're receiving Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to see. And it obviously depends on the place, but it's been great to see the reactions you've been getting since the last couple of months, especially now being on SmackDown. And you mentioned the sword, too. When the sword hits, the place goes crazy. You mentioned before in other interviews, obviously the sword originally belonged to Vince, and now it's kind of yours, naming it Angela after your mother, which was really cool. You've had it ever since. We're coming up on, if not the one-year anniversary that you've been having it on WWE TV. Is there going to come a point where you have to give it back to Vince, or is he just going to let you keep it at this point?
I don't believe it's the same sword. I don't want to ruin anyone's fantasies. I think that was a stand-in initially until we got my own sword.
Oh, okay.
But I've had this one for a while. It's been a year to the day exactly. I found out in my last interview.
Awesome.
Since I got the sword and did that entrance, and funny Easter egg. Since I'm going to give you some stuff for people to click on. If you watch that entrance. My very first one when I wrestled Randy for the title and won my second WWE championship, I was informed that our match wasn't for about another 20 minutes. So I was in the training room getting ready. We're at Tropicana, I want to say. No, it wasn't Tropicana because I would never have made it. I believe we were the Amway. We were at a residency there because I never would have made it to Gorilla. I was in the training room. I told her 20 minutes to my entrance. It was a brand new entrance. We had the sword deal. I was going to shove it in the stage, set off the pyro show. And I was putting on my tape. I did one wrist, and then I heard my music playing. And I turned to somebody and said, that's weird, testing the music. And I went, no, that's your entrance. So I was misinformed. I was actually up in like 2 minutes. So I sprinted all the way to the gorilla position for my entrance. Obviously, they're wondering where I am, and I make it clear that it's my new entrance. It's like I can shout to them, I'm building anticipation right before I walk through the curtain. I walk through the curtain. If you look closely, I've only got one wrist tape on my wrist as I make that new entrance for the very first time. The reason being that I was misinformed by the referee that 20 minutes when in fact I had 2 minutes, and I had to run across the arena, do my entrance, and during commercial put on that other wrist tape.
Oh, you would never know watching the show, too, because you went on to win the championship 15 minutes later, so it's crazy how things work out.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's the thing with WWE. Like, people think they know. They have no idea what's going on backstage. There's wild back there.
And this story's just coming out a year later after it initially happened. That's funny. Last question for you, Drew, as we wind down here, going to the Survivor Series on Sunday. This is the third time I've talked to you. I talked to you back in May about your book and over in August, over SummerSlam weekend, about the show itself. But I keep forgetting to ask you each time I've talked to you. Your theme song is so great. My girlfriend was wondering, is it a song that you listen to at the gym at all? Because it sounds like the perfect gym song. I know you've talked before about your original song, Broken Dreams. You listen to that in the gym when you were first starting. Now, what about your current theme? Because it sounds like a great song you can just crush it at the gym to.
Yeah, I use it more when I'm struggling. Like if I've got a time, like maybe today, for example, just being a little jet lagged. I'm probably going to train before I head to the airport tonight to head to Brooklyn, and it's going to be a big back day with deadlifts. So that's the kind of day where I'm struggling towards the end. I'll throw that on to remind myself. It's not just because it's the Scottish bagpipes and it sounds cool. It's, Drew, you're about to be in your underpants. Get through this workout with the power.
Oh, that's funny. Well, it's perfect every time we hear it on WWE TV. We're going to be hearing it on Sunday as well. Survivor Series, the latest WWE event coming to the Barclays Center. Sunday, November 21st. Team SmackDown, Team Raw. Drew, you're a part of it. It's great talking to you, man. This is actually the 100th interview I've done this year, so I'm very happy I got the chance to have it be with you here today.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Congratulations on 100. And one last thing I forgot to say. I keep forgetting to tell everybody this. If they don't know already, WrestleMania tickets are available right now on SeatGeek, and the world's opening back up. It's going to be the first Mania. I'm excited about people coming all across the world to be back together in Mania. So get your tickets out to SeatGeek. I remember to say it, thank God. Anyway, thanks for having me on. Congratulations on 100 episodes. And we'll do this again soon, I'm sure.
I'm sure, Drew. I think I've spoken to you every 3 months for the last couple of months. I look forward to maybe talking again in February, right before WrestleMania 38. We'll see.
Heck yeah. Hopefully I can do some damage at the Rumble and we'll be talking about it.
Exactly. Thanks again, Drew, for the time. Always awesome talking to you. I'll catch you down the road.
Thank you, buddy.